Hello, Tim from Fair Play Now on the 1st of February 2023. Got a question for you. Do you like travelling? It might be international travel, maybe you like going to exotic and warmer climes, or could just be nationally. Maybe there's various things you like to do up and down the country. Well, what if I told you that that may well be under threat, and in 10 years time you'll not be allowed to go anywhere further than a 15, maybe a 20-minute walk, not a drive but a walk from your home. And if you are allowed to go further afield than that, you'll have to pay a pretty hefty price for the privilege, and that's if it's allowed at all. Well, this isn't fantasy, this is reality, and I don't know what your stance was on the lockdowns, whether you're on one side of the argument or the other side of the argument, but one thing that's becoming apparent is that the power that the politicians enjoyed during that period seems to have gone to their heads, and they want to basically bring lockdowns in by kind of another name, and they're calling it climate lockdowns, and they want to restrict everybody's travel going forward into the future. And there are plans for this. There's a website, I'll leave a link to it in the description box below here, and you can go on and see if your council is part of this and push back against it if you sort of think it's desirable to do so. And I'll give you a few reasons why it might be desirable. Well, consider this. Do you like going for a bit of winter sun at this time of year? Tenerife or other parts of Spain or sort of Florida or wherever it might be? No, that's not going to happen in the future. Do you like going abroad on your summer holidays, going to all sorts of lovely places around the world? Sorry, not going to be an option. This struck me a few years ago, about 4 years ago. I happened to have calls to go to the scuba diving centre at Raisbury near Heathrow, and I saw all of these scuba divers kind of having picnics between their dives and enjoying the sunshine, and then going for their sort of diving, of course, as well. And it struck me just how many activities people enjoy up and down the country every sort of weekend or during their leisure time. And are you a scuba diver? Do you like going to the dive centres around the country? Have you got a nice caravan or camper van that you like going a couple hundred miles in to enjoy some fantastic campsite in another part of the country? Do you like kayaking or other sporting things like that? Do you just like walking in the countryside? Cycling? Do you like motorcycling, getting out deep into the countryside on your sort of motorbike, or, well, in my case, a bicycle is my preferred thing of choice on that. Again, I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to do any of that with these plans. And there's so many other activities. You might not be into any of that stuff, but maybe you like going up and down the country, going to the various stately homes. Maybe you like getting out into the countryside to do some painting or some bird watching or some photography. Maybe you like the absolute myriad of shows that take place up and down the country every year. Motor shows, antiques shows, all of those other shows, agricultural shows that happen all over the place. These fun things that we all enjoy, and that normally involves travelling, maybe 50 miles, 100 miles to get to. No, not going to be an option, I'm afraid, in a decade's time. You're not going to be able to do any of that. And that's before we just get onto any of the family stuff and friend stuff. Maybe you've got family and friends up and down the country that you like to go and visit. once a year, once every 6 months, whatever it might be. And well, I'm afraid you're going to be confined to talking to them on Zoom calls and on the telephone in the future. And we're hoping to go to maybe the wedding or the 75th birthday party of a loved one who is having those kind of events happening, but you've got to go quite a long way to attend. Again, you're not going to be allowed to do any of it under these plans, and this is real. I'm afraid this isn't some sort of mutterings of a madman. You have to go onto that website and see what they're talking about, what they're planning, and if your council is on that list, maybe you should sort of be writing to them, attending meetings. I've got a little passage here saying what's giving a recommended course of action. All local councils on the UK 100 list, which is what this list is that I've just directed you to on the description box below here, need to be met with massive pushback. Write emails, send letters, make phone calls, organise protests and turn up at council meetings. Let them know at every turn that we are not going to put up with what they have planned for us without our consent. If we've learned anything from the last few years, it's that politicians can only foist their WEF, which is where these kind of ideas come from, prescribed agendas onto us if we comply with them. If we refuse to comply in large enough numbers, it all falls apart like a house of cards. And I'm proud to say, as we speak, there is a lot of pushback happening. There was a fantastic event at, it must have been Essex County Council, who are on this list, and a group of people showed up there into the public gallery kind of thing, and they were sort of making their voices heard and their displeasure known about these plans, much to the consternation of the councillors who were in the meeting. And I'm personally attending one in Oxford on the 18th of February. I believe there's one happening in Bath, the city of Bath as well, and many other places. And we just need to make it known to these politicians and local authority figures that we do not consent and we will not be putting up with these plans. Freedom of travel is an inalienable right, i.e. a right that you're born with, a natural born right that nobody has the right to take away from you for whatever reason. And we are going to make them aware that that is the case, and they will not get away with imprisoning us within these 15-minute, 20-minute cities and sort of restricted zones. So there's a massive amount of pushback kind of planned, and we just need to keep the pressure on these people, because these politicians and local authorities, they've become power mad as far as I'm concerned, and we just need to put them back in their box, make them aware that we are their bosses, they're not our bosses, we are their bosses, and they need to listen to us. And if they're going to make undemocratic decisions, which is what's going on, apparently when they were sort of doing a bit of a consultation in Oxford, they found out that 90% of people were against the proposals for the Oxford 15-minute city scheme, and yet they're going ahead with it. I was talking to my mum today. I was up there just doing a little bit of work for her, and she's on the outskirts of London, and she's going to be caught in the ULEZ kind of thing when it expands out to the outer limits of London. And she was complaining about it, and she was sort of making her displeasure sort of known about it to me. And although she's quite mainstream normally, she was saying that if she gets a fine, she's not going to pay it. So we need to make this known, because the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, he, despite getting a 60% rejection for this ULEZ expansion, he's still going ahead with it. And these politicians need to be made aware that if they're going to be anti-democratic like that, that we have every right to push back against what they're sort of proposing, and we will not put up with their anti-democratic behaviour. So there's a lot of protests and a lot of pushback being organised against this. I think whatever side of the argument you were on during the whole sort of what's happened over the last 3 years, we need to come together, because this is what's been planned in the future. And if you like travelling, you like all of those activities that I've mentioned, well, their days are going to be numbered unless we all get together and we push back against this, and we push back against it massively. And I, for one, will be doing so. I'll be doing everything in my power to push back against this anti-democratic, anti-freedom nonsense that they've got planned. And I hope you'll join me. But like I say, I'll leave that link in the description box below here. You can go on there and see if your council's involved with this, and then take whatever steps necessary to push back against it. Write those letters, write those emails, and make your displeasure known. And even if your council isn't on that list, it might be an idea to send in a freedom of information request to see if they've got any plans for this kind of thing, and then you can organise the appropriate action against those plans. And I think this is a very serious assault on our freedoms, and we do need to be looking at this and nipping it in the bud before these politicians and these councillors sort of take it any further. You might even consider the possibility of running as an independent in your local authority elections. There's a lot of them coming up in May, early May there, and if you're so inclined, why not stand as an independent? And then if you get enough independents into these councils, well, this whole nonsense can be overturned very quickly from there. So that might be another thought. But yeah, like I say, we all need to get together and we all need to fight this, because it is a very real possibility that all of that lovely travelling that you've enjoyed all of your life, and that you sort of thought you would be enjoying for many years to come, well, it might not be too long before you're imprisoned within 15 minutes of your home. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Do check out that sort of link, and I'll be back tomorrow. Tim from Fair Play Now. Thanks for watching.